In 2012, days before Guns N' Roses went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, lead singer Axl Rose released a letter to the public, and its contents were devastating. Axl Rose cemented his place in music history as the lead singer and vocalist of the rock and roll band Guns N' Roses. But his habits of delaying concerts, firing band members, and singing slurs caused riots among his fans. Fatal riots. William Bruce Rose Jr. was never supposed to rise to fame. In fact, he was never supposed to rise at all. Rose was the unexpected love child of his 16-year-old mother, Sharon Elizabeth, and his 20-year-old father, Bruce Rose. Not only were his parents still in high school, but authorities later described Rose's father as a troubled and charismatic local delinquent. Rose would follow in his father's footsteps, whether he wanted to or not. Rose's already challenging origins took a turn for the worse when his young parents split up, but his father wasn't willing to let him go. When Rose was just 2 years old, his father abducted him and allegedly mistreated him. Fortunately, Rose managed to make it back to his mother, who remarried and changed Rose's name, erasing his horrible father from his life and memory for good. Sadly, he was just going from the frying pan into the oven. Rose later revealed that his stepfather regularly beat him and his siblings, so he must have been delighted when at the age of 17 he stumbled upon his true identity. After rifling through his parents' insurance papers, Rose learned the truth about his father and even changed his name back from Bailey to Rose. Of course, it was a bittersweet revelation. Whether it was his biological father or his stepfather, Rose later recounted that his childhood was full of mistreatment. But rather than break him, the trauma pushed Rose toward music. From the age of 5, he honed his future rock singing in the church choir and later performed with his brother and sister as part of the Bailey Trio. At Jefferson High, Rose sang baritone in the chorus and studied piano. But while his classmates found harmony, Rose found mischief. He once confessed to inventing different voices just to throw his teacher off. He also found friendship, and eventually a bandmate, in Jeff Isbell, better known as Izzy Stradlin. Even with music in his life, however, he found a way to cause trouble. Once Rose discovered the truth about his birth father, he spiraled out of control. During his teenage years in Lafayette, he repeatedly ran into trouble with the law. Authorities hauled Rose in more than 20 times before he even graduated high school, sometimes locking him up for months at a time. By the time Rose was in his early 20s, the authorities in Lafayette had had enough of antics. After threatening to increase his charges, Rose fled to Los Angeles in 1982. There, he dove headfirst into his music and became so obsessed with his new band Axl that his friends suggested he change his name. Seeking to cap off his fresh start, Rose officially adopted the name Axl. The rest, as they say, is history. Within months of arriving in LA, Rose was already working the club scene, hoping to make it big in rock and roll. He joined the band Rapid Fire, recorded a 5-song demo, and then promptly formed Hollywood Rose with his high school friend, Izzy Stradlin. Before long, his nascent band attracted the likes of Slash and Steven Adler, forming the beginnings of something great. In March 1985, Rose met with Tracy Guns and the two made a merger that would change rock history forever. The pair decided to merge their bands and names into one, forming Guns N' Roses. Within months, multiple lineup changes, the band's Classic Five took shape: Axl, Slash, Izzy, Duff, and Steven. A few performances at the legendary Troubadour later, and Rose and his new bandmates inked a deal with Geffen Records. Their first hit came straight from Rose's heart. Around the time he was signing his first record deal, Rose fell hard for Erin Everly, the daughter of one half of the Everly brothers. His love for her turned out to be exactly the big break he needed. He penned the now iconic song Sweet Child of Mine in her honor and watched as the records flew off the shelf. In July 1987, Guns N' Roses released their debut album, Appetite for Destruction. But the success that Rose had been expecting didn't come easily, at first. Only after months of touring and the success of his heartfelt hit single, Sweet Child of Mine, did the album soar to the top of the charts, and kept going. Decades later, Appetite for Destruction became the best-selling debut album in US history. Not even Rose could control his fans. Hot off the success of their debut album, Guns N' Roses performed at the Monsters of Rock festival in England. But even Rose, as the face of the band, couldn't contain their fans. The crowd of 107,000 began slam dancing to their favorite Guns N' Roses songs. But as he belted out the lyrics, Rose could tell that things were getting out of hand. He paused the performance to try and calm the crowd, but it was too late. Despite Rose's efforts to maintain order, thousands of concertgoers continued slam dancing. And then, just as Rose had feared, tragedy struck. In their zeal for rock and roll, the mass of thousands of out-of-control fans crushed the life out of two fans. That tragic moment changed Rose's concerts forever. Following the incident at Monsters of Rock, Rose adopted a strict stance on crowd behavior. In 1992, Rose explained his uncharacteristically level-headed approach, saying, "Most performers would go to a security person. I'll confront the person, stop the song, and go, 'Guess what? You wasted your money, you get to leave.'" But he couldn't overcome the tragedy in his success. In 1986, just as he found fame and fortune, Rose suffered a meltdown, one that nearly put him 6 feet under. In a fit of despair, he swallowed a bottle of painkillers and ended up in the hospital. In true rock star fashion, however, he turned his personal hardships into musical magic. His nearly fatal experience inspired the harrowing lyrics to the Guns N' Roses track, Coma. But the controversy had only just begun. Hot off the heels of the success of their debut album, Guns N' Roses released a follow-up, GNR Lies. But instead of celebrating the band's success, Rose found himself at the center of a media firestorm, one of his own making. Buried deep in the album was the track 1 in a Million. The song's controversial lyrics targeted gay and black people using derogatory terms. However, Rose's defense proved even more shocking. Rockstar or not, the music world demanded an explanation for Rose's highly inflammatory lyrics in 1 in a Million. But Rose's attempt at defending his language only made matters worse. Basically, he tried to explain that his word choice was meant to describe anyone who was a problem in his life. His words only fanned the flames of fury and outrage. Years after the 1 in a Million controversy, Rose finally gave an honest explanation for his controversial lyrics. The song, he claimed, captured his first impressions of LA from when he arrived as a sheltered, small-town kid with a chip on his shoulder. "I was angry about some people who were trying to rob me," he explained. Controversial or not, no one could deny his talent. Despite the backlash against him, Rose's star kept rising. By 1989, he graced the cover of Rolling Stone magazine solo, and on his terms. He demanded that his friends do the interview and take the photos. Desperate to get him on their cover, Rolling Stone magazine agreed with MTV's Kurt Loder, calling him maybe the finest hard rock singer currently on the scene. But he wasn't like any other rock star. Despite his bad boy image and controversial lyrics, Rose wasn't a full-blown rock star in the traditional sense. Unlike many of his bandmates, Rose steered clear of hard substances and never suffered from addiction. But that didn't mean he never had fun. Rose occasionally dabbled in whatever his bandmates had kicking around. Even so, he was more focused on business. In 1991, Guns N' Roses fired longtime manager Alan Niven, but it wasn't a group decision. According to reports, Rose flat out refused to finish the band's new album unless Niven got the boot. His boot. Stradlin later quipped that Rose handpicked Niven's replacement, Doug Goldstein, because he was the guy who gets to go over to Axl's at 6 in the morning after he smashed his $60,000 grand piano out of the picture window. He might have been cracking under the pressure, and things only got worse. Without a new album, Guns N' Roses kicked off their infamous Use Your Illusion tour in 1991 to placate their fans. However, instead of making their fans happy, Rose only made them riot. Show after show, Rose kept his fans waiting, sometimes appearing on stage 2 hours late. And when he did finally show up, he left his fans wanting more, or less. At a July 1991 concert in St. Louis, Rose's crowd control habits went into overdrive when he spotted a fan with a video camera. After asking security to handle it, he took matters into his own hands. Literally. Rose launched himself off the stage and into the crowd to snatch the camera himself. What ensued was not a crowd-surfing love fest. After he grabbed the video recorder from the fan, Rose's crew hauled him back on stage. But Rose wasn't done being dramatic quite yet. He grabbed the mic and instead of resuming his set, he said, "Well, thanks to the lame security, I'm going home." And he stormed off the stage. Furious, the crowd broke into a riot causing over $200,000 in damages. Thankfully, he made his money back pretty quickly. In the midst of their drama-fueled performances, Guns N' Roses dropped not one, but 2 albums, Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. Despite the controversy and upset fans, the albums debuted at number 1 and number 2 on the Billboard 200 respectively, a first for any band in history. But behind the scenes, things weren't so harmonious for Rose. Despite their long history and continuing success, Rose's relationship with bandmate Izzy Stradlin was rapidly deteriorating. In November 1991, Stradlin abruptly quit the band and ultimately blamed Rose for his decision, saying that the stress of Rose's chronic lateness and the band's chaotic lifestyle had finally worn him down. But Stradlin wasn't the only one who was sick of waiting for Rose. Rose's punctuality, or lack thereof, didn't just plague his own band, it made all rock bands look bad. While co-headlining with Metallica in Montreal in August 1992, Rose pushed the limits of lateness. After a pyrotechnic mishap cut Metallica's set short, Rose was supposed to go on early with his reconfigured Guns N' Roses bandmates. What happened next left fans only one option. Rose's Montreal performance was over almost as soon as it began. After keeping the fans waiting, and waiting, and waiting, he finally appeared on stage. For all of 1 hour. Rose made some unspecified claims about voice problems and walked off. Once again, his actions sparked a riot as rock fans tore through downtown Montreal, causing $400,000 in damages. The band was clearly getting too big for their own good. Despite having 2 successful albums and a riotously successful tour, Guns N' Roses wrapped up the Use Your Illusion tour in mid-1993. But no one could have guessed that it would have been the last Guns N' Roses tour for years. The band fractured and Rose stepped into self-imposed silence, even as love life was falling apart. On April 28, 1990, Rose tied the knot with his then-girlfriend Erin Everly in Las Vegas, and their marriage lasted about as long as one of Rose's shortened sets. Less than a month into their marriage, Rose was looking for the exit and filed for divorce. He was about to learn that it was harder to walk away from marriage than from a riotous crowd. Despite the rocky start to their rock star marriage, Rose and Everly reconciled, just long enough to pick out baby names. Everly revealed that she was pregnant and the couple excitedly dreamed about their future family, settling on Shiloh Blue for a boy and Willow Amelia for a girl. Tragically, before the end of the year, Everly suffered a miscarriage, dealing a devastating blow to Rose. This time, there wouldn't be anything to hold their marriage together. Just 1 month after the miscarriage, Rose and Everly's relationship collapsed for good. Following an altercation in November 1990, Everly left the riot-causing rock star to his own devices. By January 1991, their marriage was officially over, but it wouldn't be the last time Rose's private life spiraled alongside his public one. With millions of adoring fans, it didn't take Rose long to move on from his failed marriage. In fact, by mid-1991, he had moved on to an even more high-profile relationship, this time with supermodel Stephanie Seymour. The two became a tabloid staple, and Seymour even starred in the music videos for Don't Cry and November Rain. By February 1993, Rose and Seymour began planning a wedding, but just 3 weeks later, they called it off. It was not a clean break. Later in 1993, Guns N' Roses dropped a punk-inspired cover album, The Spaghetti Incident. But it wasn't just a fun cover album. Hidden in the track list was a jaw-dropping surprise. A secret cover of Look at Your Game Girl, written by none other than the malevolent cult leader, Charles Manson. Rose claimed it was a personal jab at ex-girlfriend Stephanie Seymour. That wasn't the only revenge he was after. Even in the midst of controversy over his Manson cover, Rose was still causing trouble. In June 1994, he fired guitarist Gilby Clarke, without telling anyone else in the band. After dismissing Clarke as just a hired hand, he secretly brought in his childhood friend Paul Huge Tobias. Slash, who discovered the switch after the fact, was livid. Rose's public scandals and backstage battles had turned his Guns N' Roses bandmates against him. By 1996, Slash walked away. A year later, they fired drummer Matt Sorum and bassist Duff McKagan called it quits. Within months, Rose was the last man standing from the original lineup, save for keyboardist Dizzy Reed. Guns N' Roses didn't officially break up, but they may as well have.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
With the band in shambles, Rose disappeared. He holed up in his Malibu mansion, ditched the spotlight, and reportedly spent his days surrounded by a rotating roster of musicians. To the outside world, he became rock's greatest enigma, with music journalists calling him the Howard Hughes of rock and rock's greatest recluse. Fans wondered if they'd ever see him again. After nearly a decade, Rose suddenly re-emerged at Rock in Rio 3 to kick off the long-promised, highly anticipated Chinese Democracy Tour. And suffice to say, he picked up exactly where he left off. Rose cancelled the majority of scheduled shows, and after skipping a Vancouver performance, his fans rioted, causing $100,000 in damage. But there just might be a reason for all these cancelled performances after all. According to Rose himself, the reason he struggles so much with touring is apparently due to an onslaught of unspecified illnesses he has contracted over time. And while he did eventually take an interest in homeopathy in an effort to improve his health, alternative medicine wasn't the only solution Rose sought. Back in the early 1990s, in a desperate bid to uncover memories from his troubled beginning, Rose began past life regression therapy. He then went public with the uncomfortable memories of his biological father, blaming the horrific mistreatment for his stunted emotional growth. Unfortunately, all therapy did was give him an excuse for more poor behavior. In 2006, Rose made headlines in Sweden for all the wrong reasons. After a hooch-fueled argument in a hotel lobby, he allegedly bit a security guard on the leg. Authorities had to wait for the legendary rock singer to sober up before questioning him. He later paid fines and damages totaling nearly $7,000. In 2012, after decades of making music history, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Guns N' Roses. Instead of basking in his accomplishments, however, Rose refused to attend. Just days before the ceremony, he released an open letter explaining why he wouldn't be there, adding that it didn't feel like somewhere he was actually wanted or respected. That couldn't have been further from the truth. After so many squabbles and scandals, it seemed unlikely that Guns N' Roses would ever patch things up. However, in 2016, Rose did the unthinkable when he put the band back together, reuniting with Slash on stage for the first time in over 2 decades. The Not in This Lifetime tour was an instant success, drawing massive crowds and earning its place as the 3rd highest grossing concert tour of all time. Finally, fans got what they had waited decades for, and so did Axl Rose. In 2014, a vocal range study cemented Rose's place amongst the greatest rock stars of all time. The study declared that Rose was the greatest singer in the world. Rose, however, humbly disagreed and listed off legends like Freddie Mercury, Janis Joplin, and Don Henley as better than himself. He said, and I quote, "I'd rather hear any of them anytime rather than me." If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.